Hello. Welcome, everyone, to our pre-show lobby chat on Ben Jonson's SEJANUS. I'm Jesse Berger, the artistic director and founder of Red Bull Theater. I'm pleased to welcome Henry S. Turner, professor of English, Rutgers University, a specialist in Renaissance literature, and our own Nathan Winkelstein, director and adapter of tonight's reading of SEJANUS, and also the associate artistic director of Red Bull Theater. So this new program, the Lobby Chat program, is just a chance for us to have a quick chat and give you a bird's eye view of the play SEJANUS. So I want to thank Henry and Nathan for joining us on the performance day. I'm really looking forward to hearing this play tonight, which seems extraordinarily and frightfully timely. Henry, let me turn to you first. Can you just tell us, in 2 minutes or less, what are two key things about the play that would be helpful for any audience member to know before seeing the performance?
Well, thanks, Jesse. Thanks, Nathan. Johnson had written a lot of comedy. He'd basically reinvented comedy into a form of sharp social satire at this period, but he knew he had to tackle tragedy. Tragedy was the prestigious genre where you tackle the really serious moral and political questions. And he ended up only writing 2 tragedies, and SEJANUS is the first one, and it's definitely the best. It's a classic. The atmosphere is totally terrifying. It's dark, it's stifling, it's very paranoid. No one knows who's really in control. Everyone is just trying to stay alive. And, scene by scene, they all get murdered. They all commit suicide. There's no private speech in this play. Words are constantly weaponized and used against you. Everything you say is inflammatory, dangerous. It's potentially criminal. So I think there's a theory of speech and media that's embedded in this play that's very, very interesting and scary and relevant to us. That's always something I've really found compelling about it. There's another lesson in that for us, I think, which is that the play is very interested in the degeneration of political society. When a political society starts to break down, power tends to concentrate in 2 places, and we've just seen this in our own moment. It concentrates in the hands of individual people who have no accountability and who can pursue whatever course of action they like. And power tends to concentrate in the mob, in the people, in their rawest form, without any representation, without any leadership or real understanding. In SEJANUS, you see this, the people are a purely impulsive, violent force. And at the end of the play, they actually storm the Roman Capitol. And they tear SEJANUS apart. And they murder his children, and they smear themselves with his brains and his blood. It's completely savage, and there's really not anything like it, even in Shakespeare. I think a lot of people in our own country today have a fantasy about direct democracy as a source of freedom or as the truest form of political participation, say through protesting or even revolt. But SEJANUS shows us how this is really just a political horror show, and it's incredibly prescient, and we should all shiver, I think, when we see this play.
Wow. Yeah, thank you, Henry. That doesn't sound familiar at all. Nathan, Nathan, I want to ask you. I want to ask you a couple of things, and we'll have more time to talk at our full session on Thursday. But I know you have thought about you've been thinking about this play for several years and working on it. You brought it to Red Bull and to me and said, I really want to do this. I really want to do it this season. And you convinced me. And I said, yes, but I also knew that SEJANUS was a notorious flop for Ben Jonson. So can you tell us, in 2 minutes or less, what are 2 key things about the play that would be most helpful for an audience to know before seeing your SEJANUS, and why it's not a flop?
Sure, yeah, absolutely. So the main reason I hope that it isn't a flop is that Ben Jonson actually himself complained about his initial production, that he allowed another playwright, an unnamed playwright, to get in and expand it, shall we say, and that then he had worked in the published version to come in and reduce it again. And I have to tell you, if this was even more expanded than what this play starts as, there's no way it wasn't a flop, because it's probably starting at about a 4-hour monstrosity. And if it was another playwright on top of that, it was just overwritten. And so I am hoping that after 4 years of cutting it down to approximately half the language and half the number of characters it was before, that this one has the dramatic drive that was always there, but maybe got a little bit lost in the weeds. shall we say. And those weeds, I think, are what I would encourage the audience, the weeds slash the beautiful growth, is what I would most encourage the audience to be prepared for in tonight's reading. Ben Jonson is one of the great linguists behind maybe only the Bard himself, and he is flexing, like full bore flexing in this play. And so what that means is this is a slimy, nasty, funny, sometimes dark, like full bore Jacobean play. It has all of the Jacobean stylings in it, with Ben Jonson's incredibly muscular speech in the hands of politicians who tend to speechify. And so it is the definition of a language play. And so I would ask, I think that the audience will enjoy this, kind of like what Henry said, if we recognize that these are orators who are using the language to weaponize their points of view and to communicate to the best of their ability. And just like a Shakespeare play, it might take 5 to 10 minutes for us to adjust our ear, but then it really gets going. And it is, again, to just reiterate what Henry said, it's such a current play. And that doesn't mean it's a modern play. What's great about this is that it was a play written in 1601, about 16 AD, that has modern resonances in 2020 and 2021. And that the universal things that he is speaking about in terms of the demise of certain political systems and all of that is something that I think is a very important thing for us to be listening to today.
That's terrific, Nathan, and I think it's going to be fantastic. I'm so excited to hear it. And one thing we haven't mentioned at all is you have assembled an extraordinary cast. So I think our audience is really going to enjoy hearing this play about as clearly and wonderfully as it has been performed in a while, and maybe ever in America. I don't know. We'll have to talk about that more on Thursday. So thank you, Henry and Nathan, for sharing some insights on this day of the performance of Sejanus.